Is anything happening?
I want to particularly thank all the LSU baseball fans being here with us today. I, I, I hadn't decided if I'm going to give an update on the game. There were several that didn't want one, so I'm going to give you fair notice. If I decide to do so, you can cover your ears for the rest of us. All right, I'm going to call up Jared Horton and Steve Aiken for today's music. Where are you, gentlemen? There's Steve.
I guess it's just me, I think, or is Jared? Yeah, it's just me, I guess. So there you go.
Okay.
Well, you guys know the only tune I know, which is God Bless America. So that's what we'll do.
Great.
So sing loud.
Yes, sir.
Sing proud. All right. There's no accompaniment, so just imagine it's happening. God bless America. That might work. If it's too high or too low, we'll stop. All right. All right. Ready and God bless. That's too low. That's too low. Yeah. God. All right. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Good job, everybody.
Stay with me for the pledge.
All right.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Steve.
Very good.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to call up, let's see, who do I have today? Tim Quinn. Where's Tim? There he is. He was sitting with me.
I tell you, Steve is a hard act to follow,
Yes,
but
he
if
is.
y'all will join me in prayer. Lord, we come to you today with our hearts full of gratitude. We thank you for the many blessings that we enjoy as citizens of this great nation, the freedoms of speech and religion, and the gift of democracy that let us gather together and speak openly. We're especially grateful to be the opportunity to be Rotarians and for the fellowship we share and the values we uphold and the meaningful ways that we can make a difference in our communities. Help us carry out our service with humility, wisdom, and compassion. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Before I call up Mr. Gino, and I think Mr. Horton's going to join him for today's introduction of guests and our members that are participating on Zoom, I saw some advice from a tree over the weekend, and I thought about our good friend that left us way too soon, Mr. John Lowe. And again, it was entitled Advice from a Tree. Sounded like John Lowe. Said, stand tall and proud. Go out on a limb. Remember your roots. Drink plenty of water. Be content with your natural beauty and enjoy the view.
Yeah, we have no guests,
Okay.
so not on that anyway. But we do have some Rotarians on Zoom. We have Susan Bryant, Brian Patchett, Pierre Smith, Major Smith is on Zoom today. Tori Thomas and Guard Waite, Don Upgraft.
Okay.
Welcome, Rotarians on Zoom, and that's all I got.
All right. Thank you, Gregory. Now I'm gonna call up Lawrence. I think he's got a major donor presentation, followed by Merrill Watley.
I'm glad to see all of y'all. When I got here about 10:30 this morning and saw that parking lot, I thought probably half of y'all were gonna turn around and go home. So I'm glad you all hung out and stayed with us and joined us. I've often said one of my most favorite things to do is to give a Paul Harris Fellowship to one of our members. But even a greater joy and honor is to give a major donor award recognition to one of our members. This particular one is Mark Snow, our former president. Mark was with the firm of I.A. Fenner, Jolly and McClellan. He's been with them for 39 years. He went to Louisiana Tech and got a BS in civil engineering and an MS in engineering and technology. Mark is principal with the firm and also serves as the board chairman and civil engineering department head. He began his career with the firm in 1986 and has been involved in a wide variety of projects for the federal, state, and local governments. And if y'all didn't know this, the umbrellas that used to be down on the Clyde Fant Parkway, Mark was heavily involved in getting that project done, and we still have a plaque down there. In his 39 years with the firm, he has progressed through the ranks of engineering, intern, staff engineering, project engineer, senior engineering, and he is now the department head, principal, and board chairman. He's been involved in many civic and professional activities, and he joined Rotary in February 1st, 2005. He was a director in 2008, 2009, president in 22, 23, and we've been privileged to have him at the district level, serving as assistant governor last year, and he'll going in for a second term this year. So I want to recognize Mark Snow, our newest major donor. So Mark, on behalf of the district and the Rotary Foundation, I want to give you your major donor pin to wear on your lapel, and also your major donor crystal engraved with a message of thanks from the Rotary Foundation.
Thank you very much.
If you would like to say something.
I just want to say, thank you very much for this honor. But what I think is more important is why we give. Most of us, we give to, or let me tell you where I think in our giving should be done. One, I think giving to your church or synagogue is the most important thing, and always make sure that gets done first. But as our giving is done, as we're doing it for the Lord to help others, whether monetary or if we do it as a service, I think Rotary needs to be next in line. And so I encourage each one of you to give to Rotary a little bit at a time, and that's kind of how I did it over years. So, but remember, when you give to Rotary, you're helping feed somebody, you're helping get some fresh water, you're helping get an ark to get some things. So please consider that after you give to your house of worship. And second, I'd like to do a Rotary commercial. On the 4th of July, you have plans. We are going to have a district 4th of July celebration at Cyport. We have a great caterer. It's honey, it's not Honey and Booze, it's Honey, something like that. She's a top-notch caterer here in town. We're gonna have some great food. We're gonna have staff there to help with the children. So if you bring your kids, you'll have someone to keep them. We'll have a little bit of usage with Sideport. And then at the right time, you'll be in air conditioning. We'll go out there and we have the best view of the fireworks. So please join us on the 4th. Lawrence has emailed a registration form. The price is better. We're $30 for adults, 15 for kids, and the aquarium charging 75. So this is the best bargain in town. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mark.
I didn't even wait to be called up. I just came on up. I got a little bit of a tall order today because the gentleman we're going to honor is someone that could have a whole program devoted to himself concerning the years and work he's done, the things he's accomplished, and the impact he's had on people, not just his family, but his community. The person I'm talking about, his name is John Parsons. John's been a member of Rotary since 1979. He's been a chairman over several different committees the past 46 years. He's married to Brenda Parsons. He has 2 children, 4 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. He's a graduate of Byrd High School and was a member of the Hall of Fame that you may have seen recently during the 100-year anniversary. He also played football there. I don't think people know he's quite an accomplished athlete. He then went into the Navy. He was a Navy veteran and served his country, then came back and went to Centenary College right here in Shreveport. And while he was going to school at Centenary, he was working as a welder at night, working his way through school. After he graduated from Centenary, he went into sales, selling forklifts, and he loved it. He did it for, I think, 17 years until one of the factories wanted him to open a dealership. And so in 1990, he started a company called Deep South Equipment. They are one of the largest privately owned companies in the South for the past 35 years. They have 11 stores in 4 states. They have 375 employees. Now I want you to think about that. 375 people, because of this man, have gainful employment, are able to start families and be a part of this community, all from his efforts. He's also been a member of the board of the Chamber of Commerce, and he supports Robinson Rescue and Junior Livestock Show. But more importantly, he's created a company that's going to last long beyond him because he's got family involved. His son, Patrick, his son-in-law, Lindsay, his grandchildren, Patrick Hernandez and Brock Hernandez, all work for Deep South, and he's still growing. He hasn't stopped. I've known John since 2006, and I can tell you I'm a little bit younger than him. And if I had to hang around with him all day, I'd be exhausted. The man is amazing in what he can do and what he can't do. And on a personal note, of all the people he's known in this community, for him to select me to introduce him, I regard that as a very high compliment to me, and I hope I did him justice today with this introduction. So, John, if you'd please come up here and accept your award. Do that up, please. It's for you. Good, and there's another one like that for your wife. Please say a few words.
Well, I've been in Rotary a long time, and it's a great club and does a lot of things for a lot of people. My favorite thing that Rotary has done over the years, and has tried to eradicate polio. I'm of the age where kids around me were catching polio, and we couldn't go swimming, we couldn't do this, and we were terrified of the iron lung. And I don't know if y'all know what that is, but if it used to be something they put you in right before you died, okay, polio. And Rotary has done away with polio in most countries, especially in this country. And it's still after it. And I think it's a great thing, plus all the other stuff they do. Rotary's been good to me. Life's been good to me. I've met a lot of people here over the years that I really liked. I've worked with a lot of people here, and I want to thank Merle. I worked with him at the bank, and I just want to say thank you for this award.
Thank you, John. Congratulations. Now I'm gonna call on my friend Kathy French to introduce today's program, and Kathy will be presenting scholarships, community support, grants next week. So come on up, Kathy.
Okay, it is my pleasure today to actually introduce my boss, Eric England, who is the Executive Port Director of the Caddo-Bossier Parishes Port Commission. And yes, I can say that 5 times fast. He served in this role since 2005, and he's been with the port for 30 years, though he looks like he started when he was 10. He serves as the Commission's Chief Executive Officer by leading all port activity and oversees the development of our 5,000-acre port industrial complex, which serves as our region's multimodal commerce and economic development center. Eric has served and currently serves on a number of industry and community boards. He is a veteran. He enlisted in the Louisiana Army National Guard while a junior at Captain Shreve High School and served with the 1st Battalion, 156 Armor Division during Desert Shield Storm. He's married to former Amy Dowdy, and they have 2 children, Alan and Lily, who are wonderful. And it is my pleasure to welcome Eric England, my boss. And on a personal note, I learn something every single time Eric speaks, so I'm looking forward to learning something new today. Thanks. We ready? Whoop, there we go. And then, I don't think it's gonna work, but there you go.
This way?
Yeah.
Y'all see how it really works, right? The sticky notes are from Kathy. Y'all see how it works, and she tells me which way to go with the device. No, it's, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll go ahead and get started. Started out with this group. We've spoken to you all so many times. Y'all are knowledgeable of the river. You're knowledgeable of the port, whether you love it, you hate it, you praise it, you cuss it, you think it's a boondoggle, you think it's an economic engine. We got a port, we got a river, and it's been here for a long time. Judging from the crowd we see here in the river, in the room, this river, y'all have seen it in your development and your life. It's been a part of it. For the next generation, it's going to be something that was always here. So everybody in this room has seen this transformative period. Offer a bit of apology for everybody that had to park in the garage. Thank a port tenant for that has 5,000 people in town this week for one of their events. I was scanning all the license plates as I drove in as far as New York, New Mexico, and it's just a proud moment when you see one of your port companies that was considering moving away because they didn't have the logistics support, the site, all the things that are necessary. Now they've been here for over a decade at our port. They've expanded 3 times and they got 5,000 people in town. And the rumor has it that there's going to be a really big country concert over it at the Bossier Arena. Some guy that grew up on Atlantic Avenue named Jordan Davis. So I don't need to go through the history with this, but I do just put it on the PowerPoint so you can see we are connected to the Mississippi River via the Red River Waterway System. Our 1925 efforts of the private organization resulted in the 1968 authorization of the Red River Waterway Commission. We were authorized in 62. We really spent that time between 1962 and our first cargo shipments after the lock and dams were completed, becoming a customs port of entry, a foreign trade zone, an enterprise zone, things like that. These are the 9 Caddo-Bossier Parishes Port Commissioners. I have one of them here with me today. Thank you for being here, representing the city of Bossier City. I almost said Bossier Parish, but Brian, thank you for being here and being a part of the board and all that you do. These are the folks that meet monthly. They oversee all of the operations of the port from a governance and a board standpoint. You can see the 4 appointing authorities. Now let's take it a little bit bigger from our port. Let's look at how we are fitting into the overall port system of Louisiana. We're a maritime state. If you've seen one port, you've seen one port. I assure you, they're all different. We have our coastal ports along the coast that service the offshore oil and gas industry, our deep draft ports, and our shallow draft ports. Barges are what arrive at our port. Ships do not go past the 190 bridge in Baton Rouge. Continuing, just transitioning, what are we? What do we do? In addition to being a maritime facilitator, we're not going to go too deep into that today, but we are just going to talk about these companies. These are the companies that have a physical presence at the port with a long-term lease arrangement. We don't sell land at the port on our 5,000 acres. We'll talk a little bit about that down the road. In addition to these long-term leases where industries have invested billions of dollars, we also entertain what I'll call short-term leases. These are some of the companies that might need a 5-acre pad for a week. Keep in mind, a shipment by barge could be 360 truckloads in a single shipment. 360 18-wheeler loads coming to the port in one single shipment. They may not want to lease 5 acres from us for years, but they may just need a holding area. And that's where the port comes in handy, facilitating transportation. In addition to our economic development efforts of capital investment, bringing industry to town, Kathy put this in here for us. Thank you. This is a snippet from the job fair last week. These are jobs. Look at those jobs. This is across the board. Our companies are hiring. It's just under 100. We held one of these last year. There were 150 open positions at the port. These are executive, everything down to entry level. Just some shots of the job fair itself. Companies were hiring on the spot. People showed up ready to interview with their resumes. They were ready to go. I do want to brag as we're talking about our companies that are hiring, just a couple of them that have expanded, done some really powerful things in the community. Bentler Steel Tube last year, you all know they had a manufacturing facility where they take raw steel and they transform it into seamless pipe that's used mainly for oil and gas exploration. They took it one step further, added over $20 million and built a threading facility. So now instead of their pipe being sent to another facility, jobs being, in another community, they're here. They're here now and there's more to come. Just a shot of just how they transform the steel. That's a future steel pipe coming out of the furnace being stretched almost before it's rolled out and pierced with the mandrel. It's just totally impressive what they do. Everybody in Northwest Louisiana at some point has been beside, in front of a frac sand truck. Where's all that frac sand coming from? Well, it's coming from lots of places. One place is the river. There's a 30+ year supply just across from the port complex where they're dredging it. They have a dredge near Red River South Marina. They pump it to if you will, the Shreveport side from the Bossier side of the river. Anywhere from 400 to 600 trucks a day are being pumped out a day, 400 to 600 a day, just of frac sand. That's how much of this stuff is being moved in our community. That's a huge number, y'all, even for us. And we're into big numbers of trucks. And given how many trucks are on a barge, and more to come, there's no slowdown in sight from what we're seeing in the natural gas area. We have the frac sand. We also have the companies that transport the materials that are used to develop the natural gas drilling pads. They come into our port and they're not slowing down a bit. In the way of warehousing and logistics, Sport South is a company owned by the Dixon family. For those of you who I suspect the majority in this room know, when they build something, they build it to last. Tilt wall buildings, they're now over 200,000+ square feet, employing hundreds for their sporting goods, warehousing, and distribution. We have a company at the port that takes rolls of steel. I'll show you a slide of rolled steel in a little bit, but they galvanize it and paint it. That's what they like to do. And there's this other company that has become a customer of ours because of that company. The company that paints and galvanizes, they don't want to be involved in logistics. Enter Odyssey. They're their outsourced logistics company that handles all of their inbound, outbound products before it goes to McRoy Metals or Butler Building and the companies that'll corrugate it and cut it to length. So they had 310,000 square feet, and they said, can you get under lease from us, buildings that we own? They said, can you maybe find another footprint where you could build a building? We'll lease it from you long term. And our engineers figured out, they found 40,000 square feet. When we go to work, Mark knows this, when we go to work on a building, we build our floors and the load strength typically triple what you would do on an ordinary building, because as you'll see in a picture here in a second, we stack that steel high, and each one of those coils, it's next to an 18-wheeler. And just to give you a size perspective, some of those coils weigh upwards of 40+ thousand pounds, 20 tons each. You'll typically see only one of those on a truck. So when you start stacking 2 and 3 high and the concrete floor doesn't crack, you know your engineers did a great job. Also, we've been expanding. I mentioned when we bring in large amounts of product, we got to have places for it. So we've been taking what would just ordinarily be like grassy areas, and we've been pouring concrete and building railroads so that we can have that multimodalism where you can take a commodity through all the modes if you need to, move it from one to the other and make it more attractive to the customer and be competitive. Also, not to go too in depth about the need, but we were not behind the 8 ball, but we were looking at, okay, we own thousands of acres. We're locating industry to the port. We have redundant natural gas. We have redundant power supply, not from providers, but we have big power lines coming in from a couple different places. We've got our bases covered, but we didn't have our bases covered on water. And we set out on a way to find additional water. Was it from the Red River? Was it from Lucas Wastewater Treatment Plant? Can you take wastewater, treat it enough to where it could be used as processed water for a company instead of putting a burden on the potable water system? Lo and behold, Bossier City had just completed a huge water plant expansion. And our engineers figured out that we could, of course, run a water line from Bossier to the port. Pretty impressive. They took like 4,000 feet of pipe, almost a mile long, and they bored under the river, 100 feet under the bed of the river, and successfully completed the project. Let me say that again. They went 100 feet under the bed of the river and bored over 40 inches for this water line. It's just astounding, the technology. And I really thought that was impressive that we were able to do that contractor could put a boring machine under the river, emerge within a foot of where the survey stake was. And there's technology for this. Again, I thought that was really impressive until the sewer contractor said, hold my beer, watch this. He rendezvoused under the bed of the Red River. He couldn't be upstaged like that. This contractor started in Caddo, started in Bossier, went 100 feet under the bed of the river, connected their pipe and pulled it back through. So the technology's out there. It's not a big, Mark's shaking his head like, yeah, that's no big deal. We can do that all day long. I was impressed. Project was a success. We all turned the valve. It was a good day. Now, when companies come looking for a site, they ask, do you have redundant water and how many millions of gallons a day can you send to us? We answer the question. I'm going to shift a little bit about some of our other companies. You all know Fiberbond in Minden and the exciting announcement that they had a couple months ago. They've been moving these pieces through the port. You've probably seen them moving through the area. I apologize if you got caught behind one of them. They're not as bad as the pieces that used to move out of Beard Industries decades ago. But what's really cool is you can take that barge where the tugboats are and you can sink it or float it to the level of the dock. And the trucks drive onto the barge, jack up the piece, let the trailer come out, set the piece onto those red pillars that you see. That's what you call roll on, roll off. That's what you call foresight of engineering, to know that one day that you would have a docking facility. So back in the 80s and 90s, when they were laying out this port facility, they took that into account, that you wouldn't only be lifting on, lifting off, that we would have that roll on, roll off capacity so that Fiberbond could build these modules in Minden and use the port and not have to open up a temporary shop in the Gulf Coast, which is what you would have to do if you didn't have this port, because you couldn't transport these modules by truck all the way to their destination. We wrote the bonds, issued the bonds for the Sumitomo Forestry Group, formerly, Teal Jones in Plain Dealing, Louisiana. It's part of our utilizing our economic development function outside of the port complex. Kathy put a couple shots of the new sawmill. I'm going to transition again. This is extraordinarily exciting part for us because this is the future. That's what we're all here for. It's nice to see what we've done in recent times, but let's talk about the future. It wasn't enough that we have redundancies in major electrical supply to the port. What we got to have in this era of data centers and AI centers is more reliable power. When I say power, I mean enough power for one customer that services the entire city of Shreveport and Bossier. 200 plus megawatts. How are you going to do it? Well, you study it. We're in a regulated state in Louisiana, unlike Texas or Georgia, where you get to choose your power. We have one power provider. They do a great job, but they have constraints at the Public Service Commission level. There are certain things that they can and cannot do. They cannot go out and predict where the power lines need to go ahead of things. It's not allowed. They build after the fact. We said, that's not good enough for us. We're not going to locate the industry here. We're going to be behind the 8 ball. We need to thread the needle on this one, SWEPCO. What can we do to close that gap and not be behind when a customer comes to us and says they need a 50 megawatt load? We figured out that while they can't do it, we, the port, could. But we can't actually do the study. So we said, okay, who does the study? Well, SWEPCO can do it if they're paid. So it was that simple. But we had to dig. We had to dig and find out. It was a little bit of effort, but in the end, we're spending $500,000 with NLEP and the port and SWEPCO, and we're going to identify like these large power line servitudes that you see coming out of a power plant. They're called like 345 lines, not the 138 lines that run along Albertsons on East Kings Highway, not the 138s that you see big power lines. I'm talking like big power lines. The kind of power lines that we will need. And if you start thinking about a 400-foot wide servitude spanning over several miles, that takes time. That takes time. You have to identify all the endangered species, cultural resources. It's not as easy a task as you think. We're trying to close that gap from 36 months to 18 months because what we know is that a $1 billion plant can be built in 36 months. And a $1 billion plant is not going to take us saying, oh, we'll have it ready for you. There are too many unknowns. But if we can close that gap to 18 months and have your power, that gives a little bit of a comfort factor. And that's why we're so focused on getting this extra power capacity. Because it doesn't do you any good if you have 15 million gallons a day of water and you have unlimited MCS of gas. If you can't deliver the power, they're going to Alabama. So a little bit about the port. Everything at the top in red up until several years ago is a 2,000 acre footprint. The commission has worked over the past several years to acquire 3,000 additional acres. Our footprint is now 5,000 acres. The property, mainly what you see on the bottom, that dividing line between the red and the green is Louisiana Highway 1, Uri Drive. The acreage to the south to the south and west is the new property. I'm going to show the importance of that in just a minute, but when we buy property, of course, we have our due diligence that we do, but we also look at how could this fit into an industrial profile in the future. How do you do that? You master plan it. The criteria going forth when we started this process was the last large industrial mega site for this area was the Bentler Steel Tube facilities, 370 acres. And that's the last large site we had. There were no more large sites like that in our inventory. And we set forth with parameters when we bought this land. How can we have a mega site being that Bentler Steel site, something like that. And this is the master plan for all but 1,000 acres that I'll show you in the next slide. So incorporated into this 3,000 acres will be a doubling of what you saw on the previous slide. So everything on the top side on the red, it'll pretty much be on the bottom side. A duplication of heavy industrial development. What do you need for industrial development? All those things we've been talking about: water, sewer, road, rail, natural gas, electricity. And when I say these things, these are like huge, huge capacity items. For example, rail. That purple line is a 2-mile railroad track along Highway 1. That's going to cost $30 million because the Union Pacific, for us to tie into that property, says that we have to have the capability of tying in a unit train to it. And they demand the spec, and we'll have to live to it. That project will be built within the next few years to complement all of the sites in phase 2 and phase 3 and phase 1. Inside of phase 1, you can see that red line at the bottom of phase 1. That's the railroad conceptually drawn out. It is the nexus. It is where all railroad to the west will come from off the UP. It is a very important project for us. Our second large tract is 1,000 acres bordering Flournoy Lucas to the left or the north and Leonard Road to the far right. Within the property is the confluence of Sand Beach Bayou and Bayou Pierre. Everything that I said about heavy industrial development, a duplication that I said in the previous slide, forget about that. We will not be conducting that type of activity on these sites. They're bordered by too many neighborhoods, too many residents. This is the type of space, with Mike McSwain, your members' help, we're in the process now of master planning it. Master planning it how? There won't even be a railroad built to this site. It would take another $30 million to run a railroad to this site. No heavy industrial. What we're envisioning more is, first of all, green space, parks, green belts, of course, next to the residential areas, business park, office park, commercial, retail, those types of developments. Very, very non-obtrusive industrial growth, no light pollution, no noise pollution. This 1,000 acres is, if you will, grounded by an anchor tenant for us already. We were able to receive $8.5 million through the state capital outlay process to assist us with the purchase of this price over the past 2 legislative sessions. So that was a win for our legislative delegation, for the port, all of Northwest Louisiana, buying that property. I'll begin to wrap things up with a final talk about, this is a hard diagram to follow, but just stick with me. You'll see up there at the top where it says the port and I-69. The bottom left, you'll see I-49. We are building a road to connect the port complex to I-49. It'll intersect with I-49 at LA 3276, Stonewall Frierson Road. We're going to utilize an existing interstate interchange to save money instead of building a full-blown interchange that you would see, in the bottom in the green. Ours will be LA 3276 in the yellow. This approximate 10-mile stretch will be, think of it like as a heavy-duty parkway, not interstate grade, not interstate width, just a 2-lane road to connect the port to Interstate 49. That, coupled with the proposed toll road, is going to open incredible doors of logistics for our cities, for the port, for our customers. Of course, we're excited about the toll road. We're excited about I-69. These are the connectors that we need to facilitate transportation on a whole nother level. This story began before COVID regarding the I-69 service road. We were meeting with the LA DOTD folks, and we discovered there was $15 million available. It was $15 million that had been appropriated for studies associated with Louisiana interstates, and it had to be used for this I-69 project. The Assistant Secretary of DOTD, many of you have heard this story, it's a true one, said, "Can you raise $15 million in the next week? If you can, we'll have the $30 million that it'll take to build this road pre-COVID." We did. We went to Caddo Parish, DeSoto Parish, Caddo-Bossier, DeSoto, Bossier City, NLCOG, and we raised the $15 million and we allocated the funds. COVID hit. Short story, part of it is this road is now going to cost $80 million. Apples and apples, not apples and bowling balls comparison. I'm telling you, that is what the construction cost has gone to. But here's the best part. We got the money. The money has been allocated through one of last year's federal appropriations, not to go into all the details of that. We received a $50 million allocation for this road. So now here we are back to pre-COVID conditions in terms of where we were. We had the money. Let's just go do all the engineering and right-of-way acquisition. Can't build it fast enough. What we're racing against now is inflation. We have the $80 million allocated. We at every juncture, we are just prodding it along, get the engineering done so we can do the right-of-way acquisition, so we can put it out for bid and we don't get hit with $80 million times 5% interest rate, whatever the number is. That's what DOTD uses. They use 5% as an allocation for interest every year. So every year, $4 million, right? $4 million, the cost project went up. And I got to have that $4 million to bid it. It's just, it's a shuffle. But this is the future, folks. This is what you all have supported with your support of the port. We're thankful for it. We are honored to be stewards of your support, of the tax dollars that have been contributed not only to the J. Bennett Johnson waterway, but the Port of Caddo-Bossier. We know that the projects that we are building today will lead to jobs, dollar investment, and continued economic growth for the future. And it's an honor to be here and talk about this economic engine with you. I'll be glad to answer some questions if time allows. Thank you very much.
Eric,
Yes, sir.
quick question for you. What happened to 220 that was supposed to go down to the port to carry the heavy traffic and also the pipeline that was supposed to come from Calumet along that traffic line coming to the port so the trucks wouldn't have to roll on that? What happened to that?
Okay.
And with this land, can you facilitate that? I think a subdivision was stopping it, but it looks like your lines show that you could bring it right down to it again.
Can I get the PowerPoint back, please? When you said 220, I believe I'll talk, see if we got a shot. We took that slide out, didn't we, Kathy? It's a little bit in that one. I apologize. 3132 is a 220 extension, the one that intersects at Flournoy Lucas Road. Its path from Flournoy Lucas Road will be sandwiched between 12 Oaks neighborhood and Esplanade neighborhood. There's a trapezoidal piece of property that is owned by the city of Shreveport, and then it's private land, public land past that trapezoidal piece that the city of Shreveport owns. When you build a project like the 3132, I-69, I-49, I imagine everybody in this room has heard about the federal process you have to go through. Similar to what we were talking about with endangered species, all those things you have to identify the best route. Because there isn't enough local money, of course, to build the road. So you look to the feds, you look to the state, and that's why you have to go through that process. When you go through that process, you reach a point where you reach either a record of decision, like for a big interstate project, or a finding of no significant impact, a FONSI, which in the case of 3132, they did not have to do as elaborate a study as you would the interstate and receive a record of decision. They received a FONSI. Worn out. All that to say this, the FONSI is complete. The FONSI is complete. It is on the shelf. They can build the powers that be can build that road anytime because you have your FONSI in place. They can go out there and start acquiring the right-of-way and finishing all the engineering. However, enter the toll road. The toll road discussion has made a pretty good case that the toll road takes the exact same path as 3132. It'll be built for 25% the cost of 3132 expansion. And keep in mind, the toll roads on each side of the toll bridge are more accurately described as connector roads. Folks like us will be able to drive on the connector roads in Shreveport and Bossier. You only are paying the toll when you go over the bridge. So for now, 3132 is as it's been for the past few years with a FONSI, a finding of no significant impact. You can build it when you get the funds, but somewhat tabled, awaiting Tim James, because it follows the same path. Tim James Group has been extraordinarily successful with federal, state, financial, local folks showing that their path makes sense. DOTD has said, it's kind of like Henry Ford. I don't give a dang what color you paint it as long as it's black. I don't give a dang where you put it as long as you put it here. And the place that you put it is at that trapezoidal piece that the city owns. So that's where we are with 3132. Watch out, keep an eye on the toll road. And I got to tell you, I don't know about the pipeline coming from Calumet. That's a new one for me. I'm learning something today. I'll have to find out what that is. So I can't talk to you about it because I don't know.
What is the orange line down coming off the toll road?
That's where your property is.
I
down
know,
there.
but that's what
Which one?
Orange line. Where you?
That's the
How about you
Stonewall
point to
Frierson-
it?
The Stonewall Frierson Road.
Yes. LA 3276. And what was your question, please?
He wanted to know what it was.
Where the Chevrolet dealership is. That's it. That will be the future I-69 service road. You got it. LA 3276, where Marketplace Chevrolet is. So imagine, where yes, sir. Think about where the LSU Pecan station is. That's where it'll start, and it'll go to the Chevrolet dealership. What you got, Joe?
Eric, off the port for a minute, but onto this I-69. There's certain places in Texas, I want to say on US 59, where it says future path of I-69.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be a future path of I-69? If we're going to have one too, or?
Yeah, I can explain it like this as it has been explained to me. I-35 in Dallas. When you approach downtown Dallas, there's an I-35W, there's an I-35E. Most likely you're going to have an I-69W that will travel the eastern border of Texas as it goes on up to Texarkana, and you're going to have an I-69E that comes in, goes over to the port. You'll have multiple routes. In places in Texas, Joe, they already have, there are places where they already have 3 segments of I-69 in one area. I'll stick around afterwards. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all.
All right, so $106 was collected today. $53 for lucky ticket 672. Who's got the winning ticket? Peyton? Roll it over. Thank you, Peyton. I got you a free iced coffee from Whataburger. All right, the floral from Roseneath. Lucky ticket 541. All right, congratulations. I got you an iced coffee over there to go along with that floral for your wife. All right, the first, a dozen eggs, ticket 522. Right there, congratulations. Half dozen eggs, ticket 512. 512. All right, congratulations, Joe. And for the last half dozen eggs, ticket 641. $641. All right, we'll move on to ticket 571. All right, Scott, congratulations. All right, thanks again, Tim, for the invocation. Steve, thank you for the music. James Adams, money taker. Dosha Pete, our raffle tickets, and Graham Whelan, the greeter scanner. Next week, we'll have civic grant presentations again by Kathy French. Eric, thank you so much for being here with us today. It really is, you know, a lot of times we kind of grumble and talk about the negative things that may be happening here in Northwest Louisiana. But don't forget all the positive things you saw here today and the wonderful growth and opportunities and jobs and investment that's being created there. Let's give Eric one more hand. It really has been an unbelievable ride. And like you said, all of us have been here and watched all those things grow up. You know, and just thinking of Bentler and the size of that campus and the size of that building, and they're exporting product all over the world. All right, so hope to see everybody. I am wearing a smile. I'm not going to give anything else away beyond that. But please stand and join me in the four-way test. Of all the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Good job.